In the United States, regional health departments report over 80 people dead due to the Arctic storm affecting the nation. In Palestine, the health ministry confirmed that the Israeli genocidal operation in cooperation with the United States has killed over 25,000 Palestinians. In Uganda, Cuba handed over the presidency of the Group of 77 plus China, calling for unity, peace, and worldwide rejection of Israel's operation in Gaza. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with Colombia. Senator for the historic Piedad Córdoba passed away this Saturday. According to local media, the progressive leader suffered a heart attack this Saturday and was then transferred to the Conquistadores Clinic in the city of Medellin, where she arrived without vital signs. The senator had suffered several health problems for which she had to be hospitalized in 2022 and in 2023. Córdoba was elected senator in the legislative elections of 2022 after spending several years away from public life due to a disqualification against her. Let's learn more about Senator Piedad Córdoba. Piedad Esneda Córdoba Ruiz was a Colombian lawyer and politician born in 1955. She was a member of the Liberal Party for most of her political career and leader of the Poder Ciudadano movement. As a congresswoman, she worked for the rights of women, ethnic, and sexual minorities. In 1988, she obtained her first elected office, being elected councilwoman of Medellin for a 2-year term. Her outstanding work encouraged her to run for the House of Representatives in 1990. Despite being one of the most fierce opponents of the government of Álvaro Uribe Vélez, Senator Córdoba was appointed in 2007 as facilitator for the humanitarian agreement between the FARC-EP guerrillas and the Colombian government to secure the release of several kidnapped people. In Argentina, in just 35 days of Javier Milei's government, security forces have killed 32 people, 2 of whom were executed by the practice known as Easy Trigger. The information was provided by the Coordinating Committee Against Police and Institution of Repression, which warns that legitimizing Easy Trigger as an intervention practice of police forces will worsen the situation. The extrajudicial executions, which in that country are labeled as Easy Trigger, have been justified by Patricia Bullrich, current Minister of Security. Meanwhile, Maria del Carmen Perdú, lawyer for the Coordinating Committee, warns that this figure is much higher as it is the result of initial registrations and will undoubtedly increase. In the United States, according to data provided by the regional health departments, the Arctic storm that has hit the country has already left 83 people dead. The count made by the media in the absence of national information details that in Tennessee, in the south of the country, there are already 19 deaths in weather-related events. In the west, the situation is even worse. In Oregon, there are already 16 confirmed deaths, in addition to reports of power outages and risk on the roads. States like Kentucky, Illinois, or New York have also raised their deaths due to the weather. This Sunday, the situation could worsen as temperatures will drop below -10 degrees. The world could be heading for a new supply crisis, not only because of tensions in the Red Sea, but also because of the severe drought affecting the Panama Canal. The extreme drought caused by the El Niño phenomenon leaves millions of dollars in losses in the supply chain. Companies that provide fuel, food, and delivery services report a decrease in income of up to 50%. The president of the Panama Logistics Business Council, Hugo Torrijos, said that the decrease of vessels currently traveling is from 38 to 24. The administrator of the Panama Canal Authority also gave an account of the millionaire losses suffered by the country. In Brazil, 2 women drowned when they were swept away by the waters of the storm that hit the state of Sao Paulo. The civil defense reported the victims, who were a mother and a daughter, aged 70 and 35 respectively, were swept away by the current in the city of Limeira when they got out of their vehicle to try to avoid being swept away by the water. These deaths are added to those of 4 other people who lost their lives last week, also in the state of Sao Paulo, and another 12 deaths that occurred in the neighboring state of Rio de Janeiro due to heavy rains. The weather phenomenon has affected a total of 15,000 people since it began. In Peru, weather authorities warn about the risk of flooding due to heavy rains caused by the influence of the El Niño phenomenon. According to Peru's National Meteorology and Hydrology Service, snow, hail, and rainfall of moderate to heavy intensity are expected until Sunday, so more than 300 districts in at least 13 regions are under alert. The National Institute of Civil Defense urged local and regional authorities to check, clear, and signal evacuation routes, as well as the availability of health services, firefighters, and police. The Multi-Sectoral Commission focused on the national study of the El Niño estimates that it will continue in weak, warm conditions until March. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. The Ministry of Health in Gaza updated its health records and confirmed that the Israeli genocidal operation, in cooperation with the United States, has killed over 25,000 Palestinians. The latest update has added 178 new mortal victims and 293 wounded from the occupiers' operations on the Strip in the last 24 hours. In coincidence with the report of the Palestinian authorities, the spokesman of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society's International Federation, Tommaso Della Longa, claims that the humanitarian crisis is reaching catastrophic levels and is worsening steadily. In the same context, the occupying forces attacked again the city of Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip. The latest incursions of the genocidal operation have killed over 17,000 Palestinian women and children in 106 days, leaving several dead and deceased. Al-Manal neighborhood was the focus of bombardments carried out by Israel with the support of the U.S. The whole area was shaken by missiles and a subsequent fire that left dozens of people wounded. The balance scoring by Palestinian health authorities in the Palestinian enclave after 24 hours of signing siege brings the total figure to over 25,000 victims killed and the number of wounded to over 63,000. 70% of them in both cases are women and children. We now go with our correspondent in Gaza, Nur Harsin, to learn about the latest updates in the Palestinian enclave.
Days pass and winter arrived here to the Gaza Strip, and actually this fact is adding to the suffering of the people. Especially now, most of the displaced people are actually staying in tents, plastic tents that are not strong enough to protect them from the rain and the wind. Palestinian families are now suffering in this very cold winter. Palestinian Health Ministry reported more than 400 cases of diseases that arrived to the hospital, and they are talking about more cases actually, but they did not manage to report them inside the hospitals due to the unhealthy environment here in the refugee camps, adding the fact that there is a lack of blankets, lack of clothes, the very non-strong tents that are not protecting people and children from the cold. So this helped in spreading the disease and also cold and flu among people in the camps and also children. The Palestinian Health Ministry here in Gaza have been for weeks calling upon the UN, the World Health Organization, and the international community to intervene and find a solution for the cases of these families and at least allow more medicine to enter the Gaza Strip. Nur Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
In Uganda, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates Riyad al-Malki has emphasized the horrific situation in the Gaza Strip as the Israeli war of genocide on Gaza enters its 106th day. Addressing the non-aligned movement conference in Kampala, al-Maliki said 106 days have passed since Israel began its campaign of mass slaughter, deliberate starvation, and systematic destruction of the Palestinian people in Gaza. He pointed out that the international system has failed to assume its legal responsibility regarding the situation in Gaza, adding that in over 100 days, Israeli warplanes killed hundreds of civilians, including 10,000 children, and nearly 10,000 people are still buried under the rubble, mostly women and children. The foreign minister also added that Israeli fighter jets have further massively destroyed over 70% of homes and buildings in Gaza and displaced nearly 2 million Palestinians, half of them children. Israel also killed over 115 journalists, nearly 350 health professionals, and hundreds of university professors, artists, engineers, and other professionals in the same period. In this period, Israel deliberately used starvation and deprivation of water as a weapon of war, and now 4 out of 5 of the hungriest people in the world are in Gaza. There are pockets of famine in Gaza, and children are dying of dehydration, malnutrition, and hypothermia. He said these atrocities are happening at a time when Israeli forces abduct thousands of civilians in Gaza and the West Bank, torture, humiliate, and starve them and subject them to unspeakable mental, physical, and even sexual abuse. These horrific abominations are done live with total impunity. Finally, the Foreign Minister Maliki praised the unprecedented South Africa's genocide case against Israel before the ICJ. In Europe and other countries around the world, citizens mobilized this Saturday in support of the Palestinian cause and against the Israeli genocide. In Italy, demonstrators gathered in the city of Milan to raise their voices in rejection of the siege against Gaza. Solidarity was also shown in the city of Uppsala, Sweden, where people called for a permanent ceasefire in the Strip. Likewise, in Denmark, citizens rallied in the Copenhagen region. Demonstrations were also held in the United Kingdom and France to show their support for the people in Gaza amidst the ongoing Israeli attacks. Also in Spain, citizens of more than 70 cities took to the streets to show their support for the Palestinian cause under the motto "Stop the Genocide in Palestine." Social movements in Barcelona mobilized this Saturday in support of Palestine. Demonstrators described the state of Israel as genocidal. They also criticized the president of the Spanish government, Pedro Sanchez, for not taking measures to reach a ceasefire in the Palestinian enclave. Also in the northern municipality of Bilbao, they called for an end to the arms trade and to relations with Israel. Mobilizations also took place in Malaga, Toledo, the Canary Islands, and other parts of the country. Syrian official media has confirmed a missile attack on a residential neighborhood in Damascus. The incident occurred in the neighborhood of Maseh on Saturday, and the attack is credited to Israeli occupation forces. 3 Israeli fighter jets are reported to have launched missiles in that area in western Damascus. Officially, 1 person is reported dead, and there are at least 6 injured. On Friday, the governments of Iran and Pakistan agreed to de-escalate the confrontations which have left many people dead. Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Amir Abdollahian and his Pakistani counterpart Jalil Abbas Gilani met and have agreed to resume dialogue. Throughout the week, the air forces of both countries conducted heavy raids. The crisis began in the troubled border region of Baluchistan. Tensions got so high that the Pakistani Prime Minister Awan ul-Hakakar walked out of the Davos Forum in Switzerland. After the agreement, the Iranian foreign minister said that cooperation between Islamabad and Tehran is key to neutralize terrorism. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Pause for break, don't go away. CEO of the Group of 77 plus China, calling for unity, peace, and worldwide rejection of Israel's operation in Gaza. During his speech at the third summit of the peoples of the South, held in the city of Kampala, Uganda, Cuban Vice President Salvador Valdez said that it was a source of great pride and honor for Havana to share the G77 and China. Valdez recalled that his country fulfilled a fruitful agenda of activities despite the criminal economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States. In this regard, he thanked the group for its support during the island's mandate at the head of the group, while wishing the greatest success for Uganda. Cuban Vice President Salvador Valdez called for the unity of the G77 and China as a mechanism to change the international order established by centuries of colonialism and dependence. The United Nations has denounced that nearly 15,000 people were killed in 2023 in the Sudanese region of West Darfur. In West Darfur, the Rapid Support Forces group are said to have initiated an atrocious ethnic cleansing. The report, drafted for the UN Security Council, claims that the victims in the Genaina region were executed with weapons supplied by the United Arab Emirates. Since the start of the war in 2023, according to credible reports cited the UN mission, paramilitary groups have provided steady military support to the Sudanese rebels responsible for the massacre through Chad. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization has admitted being involved in new plans against Russia as part of the alleged threats to be faced by the North Atlantic Alliance. According to information from the bloc's military committee, NATO will initiate its Steadfast Defender 2024 military exercise in a week, one of the largest in decades, which will last several months and will involve some 90,000 military personnel. According to the international organization's authorities, the maneuvers will be held in Germany, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania territories and will be the biggest since the Cold War. Several media referring to a secret document of German armed forces indicate that these maneuvers take place as a warm-up for an alleged conflict between Russia and NATO, which they predict could start in 2025. The European Union has announced an increase in the manufacturing of ammunition throughout 2024 to supply Ukraine. European Union Domestic Market Commissioner Thierry Breton said that before the end of 2024, production capacity may reach between 1.3 and 1.4 million projectiles, which he said would be sent to Ukraine to help the armed forces of the Kiev regime in their conflict with Russia. Despite warnings that sending more weapons to Ukraine would only extend the conflict with Russia, the Western powers, especially the United States and most members of the European Union, insist on rearming Ukraine. In France, farmers joined protests by their European colleagues over delays in public aid, fuel subsidies, implementation of new environmental regulations, and prices imposed by agri-food industries. Since Thursday, a group of farmers have joined protests in different highways of the country to demand the government to take into account their request. The agricultural union, FNSEA, stated that they will not move from the streets until they get answers from the government. They are also studying the possibility of calling for a large national protest in the next few weeks. In China, authorities reported 13 dead in a fire on Friday night in a school dormitory in Yanchangpu village, Henan province. The official report indicates that the fire broke out at 11 p.m. local time at the Jing High School. At the moment, authorities are investigating the origin of the fire, and at least one person linked to the school has been arrested. The village of Yanchangpu is located on the outskirts of Nanyang, a city of nearly 10 million people. North Korea warned that it will not stand idly by in the face of military provocations and other hostile actions by the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. The North Korean Defense Ministry said it will respond militarily to naval exercises conducted by these countries near Jeju Island in the South Korean Strait. The ministry added that the training exercises make the situation in the region more unstable and seriously harm the security of the country. In response, North Korea's underwater weapons system conducted a test in development phase. In this regard, they say that the underwater nuclear reaction capability of the Army is being perfected, and the different determined responses to the maneuvers of the United States and its allies will continue. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.